Aloha, everyone, and welcome to Java. This is Sunday, October 22nd, 2023. Thank you very kindly for joining me. I wanted to take a look ahead at what's going on in the markets and also update what is going on with the conflict. So, we'll start with our favorite indicator of risk, the MMRI. It's clearly above 324 in the extreme territory still. So, it has retraced a slight bit. We're still in that extreme factor. But if it continues to consolidate here, then it could kind of even things out for a while. We're going to keep an eye on that. The two main elements of this are the relative dollar strength and the 10-year yield. So we could be normalizing with this if it continues to hold. So with that, we've got today's market rates. They are between 7.97 for a 30-year and above 8 for a 30-year jumbo, which is pretty much the price of any house nowadays. So we've got our general sentiment for the market is negative. We did have a sell-off on Friday through the markets, and it really did going into the red. Just kind of the treasury yields did start to come up, and there was quite a bit of issues going on along with this conflict. And I think there is more to it than that. However, we'll go through a bit more. So this week we are expecting to hear news on their decision for the European Central Bank, whether they will hold or raise rates. We're going to get major earnings. I'll go over that in a moment from some of the companies. And we will continue to watch both oil because of the Mideast conflict, as well as the 10-year yield, because we're watching treasuries being sold off in massive amounts from China. So we've also got some information coming from commercial paper and bank information. We know that commercial real estate is really having a difficult time, as well as most banks. They're closing branches and they're firing employees. They're having a very difficult time in this higher interest rate environment. So, huge week of earnings reports. It does have the potential to shift the focus of investors away from the Middle East because there's going to be quite a bit going on. So, this could actually give a boost to the market. And if it does that, there is a potential squeeze because everyone is imbalanced at this moment to the negative side. And sometimes we see that happen. So, some of the companies we see due to report include Amazon, and a lot of these are now incorporating artificial intelligence. So, along with Amazon, we've got Microsoft, Meta Platforms, which is Facebook, Coca Cola, AbbVie, which is a healthcare company, and Chevron, which is, of course, American Oil. So, as we said, the stock market took a bit of a dive on Friday on these worries, and we're watching Treasury yields surge. So, in this story, it's saying here's what history says might come next for the bond market. And basically, what they're getting at is that typically and historically, Treasury yields kind of settle in at double the inflation rate. And that makes it a comfortable level for investors. So basically, if the Fed is targeting 2.5% inflation rate, then the yield would be comfortable settling in at 5% rate roughly. So even though it's hovering close to that 5%, which is the highest level in 16 years, their argument is that is basically the new levels which we should just get comfortable with. So we'll see what happens. I disagree. I think we've got an awful lot of things that are breaking in the background, but that is the narrative coming out of the Fed, as well as some other kind of bullish, actually, fund managers. So, taking a short look at office space, commercial space in general, this is just a graph of the outstanding distress and then the weakened loans potential distress, if we see there's quite a bit. So these will have to normalize one way or another, either through sales or their rates going down, because close to 300 billion at the moment. So now we'll move to lava updates because these have the potential to move the markets, even though they're not directly related to financials. So this first one is actually the border of India and China. And I just wanted to bring this up because this is still showing there's some tension there between the two countries because India is the up and coming producer. And as of right now, China is second only to the United States. So keep an eye on that. And then North Korea. This is an interesting one. They came out directly and said that they would target US nuclear bombers first. So this is a picture, if you haven't seen a P-52 Stratofortress, and they chose this because they are the nuclear device delivery system for the United States. Kind of an old-fashioned thing. However, the point is that Kim Jong-un is a little less seasoned in the nuclear categories, and he is really looking to prove himself as far as the larger world of being a leader for his country. So kind of should watch him a little bit more, in my opinion. He's much more of a threat. So the breaking news we had as I was doing this, of course, this is the Jerusalem Post. So I expect a slant to this one and definite bias. But they're saying that 450 Hamas terrorists were arrested in the West Bank and dozens were killed in Gaza. They did lead a campaign as we had expected through in the US it was nighttime. However, over there they did start. They did have the Gaza Strip cut off from the internet and started basically their invasion. So we've got another problem here because Syria said that Israel hit the Damascus and Aleppo airports again. So first time they kind of said it was a mistake. This is the second time they were hit simultaneously. I don't think they're going to kind of take that story again. So that could be a trouble there. If you have any comments on this, I would love to hear these. Please leave them for me, but I got a bigger question here. Who is Hamas? And by that I mean, what organization is really directing them? Who is underneath? Who is funding? Who is behind Hamas? Do you think it's Iran? Do you think it's the US? Do you think it's another party? I'm seeing quite a few things going on in the internet, and I really, really want people to start thinking about this. Or do you think they are completely independent and that Hamas is just Hamas acting completely on their own? So, with this, we've got President of the United States saying that the US will build a new world order. So the last time we heard this language was around 9/11. When the towers fell, the president at the time used this language as well, talking about building a new world order. When that happened, they came out with the Patriot Act, and that is by far the most devastating towards United States citizen rights to date. So let's keep an eye on this. We've also got the US bolstering naval readiness. Amid the global tensions, we know that they've sent carriers and more equipment both to the Middle East as well as to the east near Taiwan. Philippines having issues there. So, amid all of this, the United States deficit has doubled, and the president is still asking for more Ukraine funding. So, even though this has doubled and it's all got to come out of taxes, Janet Yellen saying that we can afford two wars, and they're just kind of going for it. So, with that, they've got a free budget. The US is sending additional air defense systems to the Middle East, including the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense Systems, which also inadvertently are meant to target nuclear weapons if they should be shot at them. And we are also still sending our higher weapons to Ukraine. So you can afford that. As far as migrants, this was a little bit of an interesting shocker. This is from Germany, Chancellor of Germany, Scholz, saying that unfortunately they cannot stay here, and he's meaning the migrants. So basically, in an interview with Der Spiegel magazine, he's saying that they need foreign workers and refugees that also have the right to asylum, but anyone not belonging to either of those two groups will be deported. So I thought that was interesting. So moving on with our economics, we've got also on the ECB interest rate decision, some of the largest money managers in Europe saying not to bet against them being done hiking their interest rates. So I don't think they're going to cut. They may hold. They may possibly hike, depending on how things go. We'll see. We've also got Standard Chartered to launch crypto custody services in Dubai. Dubai is becoming a major center for cryptocurrency. And speaking of that, we've got the United States, and I've been telling you this for a while, or talking about this at least, that the US government holds quite a bit of cryptocurrency. So they talked about how much they have seized and that they are still holding. They're estimating it's worth $5.5 billion worth, but the numbers in coins is over 200,000 Bitcoin is what they're holding. If they chose to dump this all on the market at once, it would dump the price of Bitcoin. However, I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to use it for something else at the timing of their choosing. Uh, you can take from that whatever you would like. I also think they are going to use it to manipulate prices until they get to do what they would like. And they're telling you not to own it. So, my opinion, that means I want more. So, we've also got the de dollarization in Russian China trade is almost complete. So, in their estimation, and again, probably biased because it's written by them, but they're above the 80% direct trade between Russia and China in the ruble or the yuan. They've completely bypassed the petrodollar. So I've got a quote now, and I'd like you to guess who this is. The quote is as follows: "We proceed from the fact that all people are equal. Everyone has the same rights. The rights and freedoms of one country and one people end where the rights and freedoms of another person or an entire state start. This is how a multipolar world should gradually be born." So you would think that would be someone from the United States, but I'm going to spoil it. It's not. This was a direct quote from Vladimir Putin to the Chinese network in an interview. So things are changing, my friends. With that, I'm going to urge you to stay ready and stay free until I see you again.